So it's Daniel with Dark Matter, and I'm back out here in London in the traffic for another episode of Altered Britain.
It just felt like one of those dystopian moments.
AI to write CVs and then AI to judge CVs, and now AI to interview people. It becomes a binary process.
You're going to end up with 10 employees that are all exactly the same.
So today we're going to go and meet a guy called Dave. Dave is somebody who's out looking for work at the moment, and he's been quite vocal about his experience with AI, which is apparently quite commonplace now, that people looking for jobs get a first stage interview with an LLM. I don't know, I think I'm a bit old school. I don't really think I like the idea of trying to impress an LLM sufficiently that I'm then allowed to speak to another human being. I think I find the concept of it quite insulting, personally. But I want to find out a little bit about his experience. How accurate are these things at actually getting a good read on someone's skills? Yes, but also how would they fit culturally? Do they share values? Do they present strength? Are they expressive? Well, the AI might not be able to tell all of that. So our business is actually passing up great candidates in the favour of efficiency. Firstly, thank you for agreeing to have a chat with me.
Yeah.
I said on the ride down that we saw a post that you put out about your experience on trying to find a new job, new work. What happened, and what was the post that you put out?
So I've mainly worked in market research for most of my career, and then I got made redundant 2 years ago, and I was like, right, let's try and push towards some sort of like policy or trade union style role. And the last 2 years has just been like humbling in terms of trying to engage with the job market, basically. They often have really long application forms. You know, it takes you a few days to think about how I'm going to address this, and they want like 3 sides of A4. So you spend a long time doing these, and then ultimately either you don't get anything back, or you just get, oh, sorry, we're not interested this time. It does grind you down a bit. You're not getting that other side of the conversation saying, oh, if you had a bit more experience here, and here, we'd probably offer you an interview. And then it kind of got to a point where I was like, right, I just need some money. So let's try and get some hospitality jobs. So eventually I found a hospitality agency. I was like, went on their website, filled out sort of the basic information. And then it was kind of like an automated email that came through and said, okay, yeah, we would like to interview you. And it was heavily pushed in that email about, oh, why not just get interviewed by one of our AI agents? This means you might be able to start working within like a week and a half kind of thing. And there's like the money pressures there. And then it kind of said, you know, if you do want an interview with a human, you might be waiting 4+ weeks for that to come through. It just felt like one of those dystopian moments, like, you know, when you watch The Fifth Element or stuff like that, and you think, how could society transform in that way? And it almost felt like this was one of those beginnings of society starting to transform that way. So kind of out of morbid curiosity, I was like, okay, let's give the AI interview a go, because like I do want to earn money as quickly as possible.
It feels like a bit of a slippery slope using AI agents or AI to write CVs and then AI to judge CVs, and now AI to interview people. It is a bizarre dystopian kind of concept. I'm, I guess, on the other end of that from where you are. As an employer, I put out a job spec, I can get 100, 200 CVs back. It's very challenging to kind of sift through them and find what you're looking for, because they've all been kind of like modified with AI.
Yeah.
So they all sound the same and they'll kind of look the same. I mean, you see the experience and the skills, obviously, but I find myself at a point now where I'm looking for spelling mistakes, which I think, great, as a human being that's done this. So suddenly spelling mistakes I think are good.
Right.
And also if it shows any ounce of personality, then I'm interested. Yeah. I'm intrigued. What did it even look like?
So it was, I can't remember the exact technology, but it was like a Zoom call, you know, there I was, and then there was just a blank screen, which was the agent.
So no actual image or any, not even avatar or anything, just
No sort of anthropomorphization. It was just, a blank screen, and then a kind of, I think it was like a sort of American woman's voice started talking to me. It was typically what she was saying was very standard interview questions. Like one of them was, which is more important, speed or precision? And so in that element, it was quite similar to a regular interview, but the big problem came when, like me and you having this conversation now, like I can read some facial cues, like when you want to talk and stuff like that, and I'll know to sort of dial back what I'm saying and things like that. But it was like trying to do what I imagine an actor doing an audition tape, like against a wall. So I would start to give the answers, and then halfway through I'd be like, do I sound animated enough? Does my face look lively enough for this hospitality role? Is my choice of words interesting enough? And there was a lot of like second guessing because there was just zero like active feedback.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bizarre concept that you're trying to optimize what you're saying towards, we typically would optimize our behavioral language patterns to try and mirror or match another human that we're talking to.
And there was one instance where they asked a question and I had to think about it for a minute, and it kind of interrupted and went, here's the question again, as if I kind of wandered off or something. It's like, no, I'm trying to cogitate here.
Yeah, I would find that really quite difficult. And I think I probably would, and I said it on the ride down, I think I would find it kind of a little bit insulting.
Yeah, I kind of get it from the employer's side. It's like, we literally don't have the resources to deal with this amount of applications. We have to use technology to help us. So I can see how the journey happened, but yeah, there is that sort of side portion of harm that comes along with it, where you're not having that connection. You don't feel like the other person is putting time and effort in to sort of hear your testimony and go, oh, actually, maybe this person would be good for us. And even to be honest, so I did get invited to the assessment day for that company. Even that felt quite cheap, because it was like, I have no idea what I did in that AI interview that they liked. I still have no idea what was good.
How long was the interview?
It must have been like 20 to 30 minutes maybe.
Right. And then I assume it gives some kind of verdict, summary, transcript back towards the company.
Yeah.
But it doesn't give you any kind of immediate feedback or any other opportunity to kind of engage?
No, it was just kind of, as I say, at the end of each answer, it was reflecting some of my points back to me to show it was listening, as it were. And then I think at the end, it was just kind of like, oh, thank you for your time. It was very opaque. And then, all of a sudden get an email saying, okay, come in for an assessment day. So it's just baffling.
It is baffling. I mean, in your opinion, do you think this is going to become more commonplace?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of companies are struggling. So if they're struggling, why would they plow their meager resources into HR and hiring to sort of, hire more people to like actually sift through all the CVs? So they're going to turn to the solution that there is, even if it's imperfect.
And I guess the negative side effect for companies as well is the fact that they might be passing up a huge amount of talented people who would be the perfect fit for their organization, but because of algorithmic bias or even performance in that kind of non-human interview, which I don't think everybody would feel completely comfortable with doing that. They're kind of missing out on maybe some great talent that helps their business move forward. So since you kind of spoke about this, have you heard of many other people that have had similar experiences?
Actually, when I went to that assessment day for the hospitality agency, I think I was one of the only ones that I'd picked the AI interview, which was quite interesting that the others were willing to just wait longer. But like coming back to your point, I think if I had my time again in terms of when I got made redundant, if I would have known the job market is like how it is, I probably would have fought harder to stay in that job. And then my strategy now for trying to get a job is to go kind of old school, like get to know people personally. I've got a big interview next week, and that's with a company that I've been volunteering for. So I've already kind of got my foot in the door. It feels like the olden days again, just trying to make those human connections and then go, oh yeah, we'll give you an interview sort of thing.
The irony of that, right?
Exactly. We've got all this technology and it's like having to like find the old connections again.
Yeah, actual human relationships and human contact that probably yield better results. But I think one of the things that I'm quite interested in is that these AI interviews, it kind of is working on maybe a bit of a bias that we all communicate in the same way.
Yeah, so cards on the table, I am autistic.
Right.
I only got diagnosed last year, so I think I'm one of these people who can mask very heavily and sort of put on an appearance of being neurotypical. The big problem is the data, you must know this, the data that you train your AI on will have bias in it. The AI will then pick up that bias and retain it. If the data you're training it on comes mostly from a neurotypical background, it may struggle with people who have different communication styles.
Yep.
And I think, to me, AI always comes back to critical thinking. Can a robot do critical thinking? I'm of the opinion, not really. It feels like the sort of pedantically precise way that computers have to work, because you're saying, okay, which nouns have you got on your CV? You know, can you do JavaScript? Can you do Python? Can you do HTML? And it finds it and then gives it a tick. If that's the way things are getting marked, it's missing a massive part of people where, you know, have you asked this person what motivates you? You know, why do you want to work in this industry? Because there's going to be plenty of candidates who've done something for 20 years, they despise it, but they don't know how to move out of that career line, and they'll get offered the job, but where's their motivation? Are they really going to be pushing at the boundaries of that job? Or are they just going to go, okay, yeah, hit the Excel sheet, okay, get my paycheck, go home?
I suppose if you boil it down, you've got a company that says this is the numerical answer that I'm looking for, and then it sets the AI off to go and interview a bunch of humans. You know, it becomes a binary process, I guess, in that sense, where it's like, I found the answer you were looking for. So it's kind of a search problem, I suppose.
Often in those situations, it's not the answer you want. You want to see how people are trying to work out the problem. And from that, you can kind of go, if they're managing to work through this in a logical fashion, they're probably going to be quite good at most systems.
Yeah.
Or you have the other problem whereby you train the AI to look for a particular thing. You're going to end up with 10 employees that are all exactly the same. And then they'll have very similar blind spots. And then a year down the line, something catastrophic happens and you go, why did no one spot this?
Yeah.
And there was just no one in the team who was different enough to challenge it and go, well, hang on, what have we thought about this problem? We've thought about the other problem.
Yeah, might be a whole hindsight thing coming, I think, for a lot of people.
Hopefully there'll be some sort of review of this where it's like, you know, we need to inject more critical thinking into how AI works and not just have hiring practices that are about, okay, we managed to get an end product and I've done my job and that's it.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to almost fairness, right? You know, and it's like, yeah, you may have hired somebody at the end of that process, but you've given 100 other people a really kind of crappy experience in terms of maybe even overall perception of your company. What's your biggest hope for how AI impacts the working world?
I think, to be honest, my main hope is that critical thinking always has to be applied to the use of AI. So, you know, you don't just jam in, oh, tell me about tax rates or something, and then take that information without questioning it. I know right at the bottom of ChatGPT it says sometimes ChatGPT gets things wrong. So that's what I would hope, really, just to build in much more of the critical thinking that I think is required to get the most out of AI.
Cool. So I ask Hope, what would your biggest fear be?
I think to some extent what's already happening, what feels really dystopian to me is if you watch ChatGPT adverts, it's always someone on their own. And it's like, oh, you don't need other people. You just need the machine and yourself. And I'll give you a gym routine. I'll teach you how to feed your cat or whatever. And we're already quite splintered as a species, and we're just going to get further splintered. And I think that's a really bad path for us to travel down.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed that conversation with Dave. Again, I don't think I'd really realised that AI interviews were quite so prevalent. AI's judging humans' worth or intelligence to see if they are worthy, which does sound a bit dystopian and a bit creepy and a bit like I really don't like the sound of it. Maybe this kind of AI recruiting thing is bigger than I thought, actually. Before we've actually arrived today, I did find out that I know a few other people that went, yeah, I've had an AI interview too. So apparently that's a thing now. I think what was also interesting about Dave was, you know, he was talking about his autism, and it really does call into question a few things about how are these AI interview tools geared up to deal with neurodivergent people? Now, there's a wide spectrum of communication requirements or preferences for people who are neurodivergent, facial cues being one of the most important. And if you're being thrown on an AI interview and you're being interviewed by a black screen, well, how can you possibly be performing your best? You're continually sitting there trying to optimize the words that come out of your mouth to make sure that you've said the keywords that you remember reading in the job spec. But if you're doing all of that and you have communication challenges, well, that's put that person at even less of an advantage. So it does call into question the way our models are made. Are they built to optimize or bias towards neurotypical individuals? And how do we make sure that they don't discriminate against people from a neurodiverse background? If we've got people optimizing their CVs for AI, we have AI trying to discern if someone's CV is good enough to offer them an interview, and then we've got AI interviewing people in the first instance to see if they are worthy or match their CV, which they have previously optimized. That feels difficult and weird. Very difficult and very, very weird. I would not want to be in the job market right now.